Welcome back, champions. Thank you for joining us and continuing our distance learning experience. So, before we get started, I'd like to reiterate that our weekly newsletter comes out every single Monday. That newsletter does have links to our instructional videos and both the links to our hangouts for Tuesday and Wednesday, along with our work from today's lesson and some additional sheets for practice that we may have. You will send that work to my inbox, and I look forward to reviewing all of your efforts. Make sure that you show your work, try your best, and be confident throughout the entire lesson. So, let's get started. Welcome back, champions. On this lesson, we will be covering 3-digit subtraction using a number line with only 3 easy steps. Let's begin. The first step to solving 3-digit subtraction using a number line has 2 parts. First, we will write out our equation. Our equation is 758 minus blank equals 159. Take a moment to write that. And then step 2 is label our equation. We are going to label our equation with whole and part. Go ahead, take a moment to decide which number is going to be our whole number and which number is going to be our part. Let's start with our whole number. Our whole number is 758. This is our whole number because it is the biggest number in our equation. One of our parts will be 159. That is our known part. So we labeled it KP because it is our known part. We will be looking for our missing part. Our missing part can be found by subtracting our known part from our whole number. So, we have labeled our equation and written out our equation. So let's move on to step 2, which is create missing part equation and create a number line representing the missing part equation. Our step 2 first asks us to create our missing part equation. Well, what is that? Our missing part equation represents how we are going to find our missing part. We are going to take the information from our original equation and fill in that same information in our missing part equation. So, we don't know what the missing part is. Okay, so we can just put a question mark there. We do know what our whole number is, which is 758. And we know what our known part number is, which is 159. So, this equation here will help us find our missing part. 758 minus 159 will help us find that missing part to fill in our original equation. Let's move on to the second part of step 2, which is create a number line representing the missing part equation. When we come back, we will have our number line ready to go. Here we have our number line that is representing our missing part equation. Our number line has 2 arrows going in opposite directions because numbers are continuous. So even if we do have our whole number here, there are millions of numbers that are on the other side of this line. And there are millions of other numbers that are on the other side of this line. But the numbers that are going left are less than the numbers going on the right side. So, our whole number will always be on the right side because it will always be the biggest number in our equation. And our missing part will always be on the left side because it will always be smaller than our whole number. So, now, where do we put the known part? What do we do with that? Well, our known part will be represented in our jumps. And our known part will be subtracted from our whole number, just like it is here in our missing part equation. So, let's get to jumping. Well, we can't just jump all willy-nilly. There's a way that we go about jumping. And we hope to do this the most efficient way that we can. So, we hope to only use 1 jump per place value, starting with the hundreds. Whoa, Miss Madden. First, we're starting with jumps, and then we're starting with the hundreds. We never start with the hundreds. Well, on a number line, we do. Because on a number line, when we start with the hundreds, we are doing our number line most efficient. Anytime that we start with any other place value, we end up having to make more than 3 jumps. So we start with the hundreds, so we'll only have to do 3 jumps. Let's start with our first jump in the hundreds place with 100, one jump from 758. When we are beginning to jump, we are on step 3, which is solve to find the missing part. We can find the missing part by subtracting the known part from the whole number. And so we have started with our very first place value, the hundreds place, in our known part. We've subtracted it from 758, subtracted 100 from 758, and when we do that, we know that the tens and the ones should stay the same. So if the tens and the ones stay the same, the only thing that needs to change is the hundreds place value, because all we did was subtract 100, only the hundreds place value. So when we subtract it from 758, we should get 658. And we can check off that place value because we have successfully subtracted it. Now let's move to the tens. When we are subtracting the tens, the ones place will not change value, so the ones will stay in 8. When we are subtracting the tens, we are subtracting those tens from the tens place value. And we are doing that from the number that we leap from, that we jumped to originally. We're jumping from that number, so we are subtracting from that number. And if we are subtracting 50 from 658, then we are just taking 5 tens away from 658, which means that we should get a number that is 608. Because when we subtract 50 from 658, we will only be changing the tens place value, and we will get 608. Once we have successfully subtracted the 50, we can check this off because we decided to take 50 away because 50 comes from our known part. And when we are subtracting to find our missing part, we have to subtract our known part from our whole number, and we have done the hundreds and the tens successfully. Now it's time to do our final leap with the ones place value. We will subtract 9 from 608. When we subtract 9 from 608, all 3 of our place values will change because we are moving backwards. And when we are moving backwards, our hundreds place value has to change. Our tens place value has to change. And because we are subtracting 9, our ones place value will change. So our answer should come out to be 599. Once we have completed subtracting our ones place value, we should be done with subtracting our known part. So that means that we have arrived at our missing part. Step 3 then says write the number in standard form. We have written our number in standard form on our number line. Now we need to write our missing part number in standard form in our original equation. So let's do that. And once we have done that, we have completed number 1. Let's move on to number 2 and follow each of these 3 steps. Our second equation will be 619 minus 257 equals blank. So let's go ahead and do step 1 all on our own by writing out the equation and labeling the equation. Take 30 seconds to do this. Pause right here, and when we come back, we will share. Here we have our whole number being 619 because it is the biggest number between the numbers in our equation. And we have the known part as 257 because that is our other piece of our equation. And we're going to use this known part to subtract from our whole number to find our missing part. Let's go ahead and do step 2 all on our own by creating our missing part equation, create our number line that represents our missing part equation. Give yourself 1 minute to do both steps of step 2, and we will come back and compare. Step 2 had us create our missing part equation and model our number line after that equation. I have written all the way on the far right side 609 because the whole number is the biggest number in our equation, and the biggest number always goes to the right. And then on the left side, I have our missing part because that is what we're looking for. That is what we'll be jumping to, and that missing part will always be smaller than our whole number. And then up top, we have our known part because we're going to use our known part to leap and jump all the way to our missing part. So now we are ready for step 3. Solve to find the missing part and to write your answer in standard form. When we come back, we will compare our answers. Give yourself 1 minute to solve for the missing part. Pause the video here. For number 2, we should have gotten an answer of 362. How did we do that? We started doing our jumps with our hundreds place. We have the 200 represented. And then we went on to our tens place and subtracted the tens and wrote our answers on the bottom for each of our leaps. Where each of our jumps landed, we wrote those answers there. And then for the final place value 7, we subtracted from our leap from the tens, and we should have gotten 362. Remember to write your answer inside of your equation in standard form. And make sure that your leaps are modeled in our place value format. So for each jump, you should be moving based off of the place values that are in your known part. Now, let's go on to number 3. And number 3 is 905 minus blank equals 453. Let's do number 3 all on our own. Complete steps 1, 2, and 3 for the third equation, and when we come back, we will compare. Give yourself 1 minute to solve. Please pause the video here. For number 3, we should have arrived at 452. If you got that answer correct, give yourself a pat on the back. Good effort. If you did not, that is okay. We just need to check our work and make sure that we properly subtracted each place value from the known part from our whole numbers and made sure that we have been writing the numbers that we land on every time we jump so that we are subtracting our place values from the correct numbers. And as always, make sure we are writing our number in standard form in our original equation because we have to insert the answer. Now, let's try again all on our own on number 4. Each of these 3 steps for this equation, 321 plus blank equals 654. Give yourself 1 minute to solve the equation, pause the video here, and when we come back, we will compare our answers. Our answer for our fourth equation would have been 333. We would have gotten this answer by subtracting all of our place values, starting with the hundreds, 300s, and then 2 tens, and then 1 of the ones. Made it to our missing part, which is 333, and then wrote that number in standard form in our original equation. Good effort there if you got it right. If not, just try it again. It is okay to do the work again and get the answer correct the second time. All right, let's move on to our last equation, which is number 5. Our equation says 713 minus blank equals 314. Go ahead, use all 3 of these steps to solve our 5th equation. When we come back, we will compare our answers. Pause the video here. All right, so for our final answer, we should have gotten 399 from our known part being subtracted from our whole number to give us our missing part. And this is the end of our video, guys. Give yourselves a pat on the back. You have been excellent. Our work for this lesson will be on our newsletter. So that same area where you would usually see the picture of the work from this video, just go to that same spot on our newsletter and you will be able to find the work there. I look forward to getting all of your work with you, showing all of your work and checking your answer. You guys have a wonderful week and I cannot wait to see you on Tuesday. Bye-bye.